Well, many on the left are warning Democrats about embracing socialism. Former FBI Director James Comey, in fact, the latest to warn the Democratic Party about rushing too far to the left. Democratic strategist Antjuan, Seawright, New York City Councilman, Republican Minority Whip Joe Borelli, Fox News contributor Kat Timpf on if Democrats risk going too far. Kat, what do you think?
I think absolutely. If you remember not too long ago when Obama was running against Mitt Romney, a lot of the Republicans would call Obamacare socialized medicine as a way of sort of arguing against it, and as a way of kind of, it sounded scary to a lot of Americans, socialized medicine, socialism. And I still think that socialism does sound scary to a lot of Americans. So the fact that this democratic socialist idea is becoming more and more popular, I think that a lot of the middle of ground Americans are going to be not wanting to vote for somebody like that.
Yeah, Antjuan, I think the reason socialism sounds scary is because it can be. A lot of deaths have piled up over the years from countries that embrace socialism, and right down not far from us, Venezuela, where the average person's lost about 30 pounds in the last year, and you got to wait online for toilet paper. I mean, socialism hasn't worked anywhere, but a lot of young Democrats seem to think it's the ideal way to go.
Charles, everyone should slow down, take a deep breath, relax. Look, the beauty about the Democratic Party is that we are a true reflection of what America looks like. We're a big tent party, so we're diverse under our big tent. And the truth of the matter is what we're going through right now is what I call growing pains. Look, we're growing at record numbers. We're registering more voters. There are a lot of people who are coming from Joe's side to our side because they are frustrated and just can't trust the President of the United States. So we're going through.
It's a big tent, but at some point we have to have the unifying message, right?
Right, but
what's that going to be?
We're growing right now. But I think the unifying message is the fact that we are fighting for the battle of America's soul, and we cannot afford to lose. Therefore, I think that's going to be the unifying message. If you look at issues like health care, if you look at issues like education, if you look at issues like the environment, the fact that people in Flint, Michigan still don't have clean running water, I mean, those are going to be the things that unite us. And I think we'll be okay going into November and going into 2020.
I think it was last week I saw a Gallup poll where climate was like, had 1%. We'll see if that's going to be important. But I will say, some of these issues Antjuan is talking about, we already pour a lot of money in there. You know what the dirty little secret is? We've got the biggest socialized medical system in the world, right? We spend more money on education than any other country in the world. I'm not so sure more free stuff and more money is going to be
I didn't say free stuff.
No, I said
okay,
free
you
stuff.
said free stuff, but,
right.
But I don't know what
But that's how it comes out, though. It sounds like that. It sounds like free stuff, because what you're trying to do, arguably, is when you say, hey, there were tax cuts, and only rich people got it, or rich people got more than you, it always sounds like somehow we're going to fix that, and we're going to fix it by giving you more.
But Antjuan is actually right on a political perspective. He's talking about health care, he's talking about education, two things that sometimes voters actually care about. What the Democratic Party as a bloc, as an organization, is not talking about are issues like that bring people in. They're talking about voter enthusiasm, right, which they have. But they're also making comparisons to the Tea Party of 2010. The Tea Party took issues, low taxes and Obamacare. The Tea Party took things that were popular to a broad scope of Americans, right, eliminating Obamacare and low taxes, and brought people in from the middle. The opposite is holding true. Abolish ICE, Russia collusion, open borders. These are things that aren't attracting people from the middle into your party.
Joe, keep in mind, because you have a few voices on the choir that may be singing louder and may be new to the choir, that does not mean the choir has lost its mission. The truth of the matter is, when I talk about the issues that I just mentioned, whether it's healthcare, whether it's education, whether it's just access to this thing called the American dream, the fact is, under your party's leadership, that is not a reality. The American dream has become an American nightmare for some. And I think that's going to be the thing that will unite Democrats up under the
But it didn't
big
become
tent.
a nightmare on January 1st or January 25th, right, 2016. I mean, things that were bad for people who are suffering now were suffering for a long time. Their lives didn't change.
Well, that's not true. If you look at the
so
tax,
people's lives actually have gotten worse since
Charles,
Trump
if you
was
look at the tax scam that was passed a few months ago, the majority of Americans have been polled, have said, look, this has not been beneficial to
No, I said they're suffering. Are their lives worse economically?
For some it are. For some it is.
How?
Take a trip down to rural South Carolina.
How did the life get worse?
Well, because they haven't benefited from.
But how did it get worse?
They've gotten worse because they've gone full steam backwards because of some of the policies of Donald Trump.
Kat, let me bring you into this, because I think the Democrats are making a mistake when they ignore Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and they say, well, it's just a niche thing. It can only happen in the Bronx and Queens. I think they're making a mistake when they look the other way, as Joe Crowley may actually go against her in the general election on a third-party ticket. I think they're looking the other way and making a huge mistake by following these same old leaders, no pun intended, that are following. You talk about the chorus. They're singing a song that the American public has rejected.
Right.
And I think listen, I don't agree with her politics, but I think with her energy and and to Joe's point, I think she has identified a frustration that Americans all across the board felt, and one of the reasons why Bernie Sanders and President Trump came onto the scene so strongly.
Right, and I think it would be a huge mistake to discount it and saying it only can happen in the Bronx, or because it is that she's a fresh face and she has an inspirational story and all that, which she absolutely does. Because going back to the 2016 elections, like you just said, Bernie Sanders was incredibly popular. Bernie Sanders, Democratic Socialist, was incredibly popular. So this is something that represents a huge, it does represent a bit of a chasm in the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party needs to figure out what its unified message is. I need to know from you because we got to get out of here.
I never said we should not embrace her. What I said was that there are many facets of the Democratic Party under the ticket.
But should the Democrats embrace socialism?
I know we should embrace the idea of moving this country forward.
Buyer's remorse in the Democratic Party, and we're seeing that with Alexandria Cortez.